So you see the members of the minority in parliament on their feet. Now this was after their leader, the Honorable Alexander Penyomarkin, gave a statement in reaction to the statement that was given by the majority leader and the leader of government business on the business schedule for the ensuing week. The minority contends that the parliamentary seat for Ablekuma North has still not been properly collated, and therefore there's a need for the government to order the provision of security for the Electoral Commission to resume the collation or complete the exercise so that a member of parliament can be legitimately outdoored or sworn in for that constituency. So earlier you saw that they raised some placards or A4 sheets with protest statements written on it, and you heard chants from the members of the minority saying no Ablekuma, no business, indicating their unwillingness to accept the business statement that was presented by the majority caucus. Now currently the second deputy speaker has put the House on suspension for 30 minutes because he repeatedly tried to maintain order in the House, but it appeared the minority caucus were not willing. In fact, he went ahead to say that the business statement was adopted, and so the majority leader could go ahead and give his concluding remarks, but that also sparked another round of protests with the minority members standing on their feet and chanting songs, party songs. Earlier you heard them sing, the elephant is a winning symbol, that's the anthem of the New Patriotic Party. They've also sung the national anthem, We Will Resist Oppressors and Help Us Resist Oppressors through trying to indicate that without the Ablekuma North Declaration or the completion of the collation of results in that constituency means that the constituents are being held under oppressors' rule. So you see the members of the minority on their feet. No, this is actually the members of the majority on their feet. Also, I do not know whether they are also trying to protest what the minority caucus is doing, but this will perhaps be the first protest we are seeing in the House officially since the 9th Parliament started. Earlier, you also heard some members of the minority say that without Ablekuma North, they may even discontinue their participation in the vetting process. That's just some commentary that some of them were making. So now let's pick some sounds from Parliament and see what's going on there.
You think every day here. You day here.
Yeah, so that's the pictures from the House of Parliament. The House convened earlier to adopt the statement from the Business Committee. There was a lot of back and forth as to whether or not a new committee had to be sworn in before they are able to present the statement, because the understanding was that the majority leadership had changed, and therefore the Honorable Muntaka Mubarak raised the argument of whether or not an oath was needed to be taken by the new members before they are able to present the business statement. But the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, stated that there was no need for that and gave the clearance for the majority leader to go ahead to present the business. Nana, so you've seen what's happening in Parliament. This is perhaps the first protest that we have seen since the House was constituted. What do you make of the happenings?
Well, Adwa, you should expect more of such happenings.
Really?
Yes, with the type of parliament that we have, and a minority with so few numbers, you would expect a strong opposition or strong positioning of the minority in such manners. And so if an issue should pop up and the minority feels this is something we are not in tune with, something we do not agree, or as a caucus of a political party in Parliament, this does not agree with our leanings or our ideologies, and we want to oppose or resist the same, then of course you have to mount a very strong opposition. Now the catch here is that if the minority should stage a walkout instead of adopting an in-house protest as it is, with the numbers on the majority side, if all MPs on the majority side should show up and are present, business can be conducted in the House. You get it? And that's why you find that the minority would rather not walk out, but disrupt proceedings in order to stall the business of the day rather than walking out so that the business proceeds.
But then as it stands now, the majority numbers is 183.
183.
We understand that the 4 independent members of Parliament
have decided to do business.
So that gives them the 2/3 to conduct business. But without the independents adding their vote to theirs, it means that they still do not have the 2/3, which is 184. So now we are assuming, or we are admitting that because the independent candidates have given their 4 to them, it means that they have the power to do any business at all. So you believe that that's why the minority is not walking out as we would see of him. But this posturing of the minority, some would say it may not help. What do you think?
Well, I mean, the type of democracy we run is not a one-sided type of democracy. And whether we like it or not, whether we choose to admit it or we'll continue to play the ostrich, we're running a two-party state. It's a two-party democracy and not a multi-party democracy. And so you will find that the majority will be held by either the NDC or the NPP based on which party is winning more seats in the House. Now, if you have such a slim minority as the NPP,
they don't want to be referred to as that.
That's why I chose my words carefully. And
they still insist they are the minority.
They are the fine, but it can be subjected to a description.
That's true.
We can choose to use whatever adjectives we choose to describe them based on the numbers that they have. You get it? You wouldn't want to, if you're this type of minority, you wouldn't want to sit back and have the 9th Parliament appear as though it were a rubber stamp type of Parliament. Ordinarily, the type of numbers that the majority has now, with the independent candidates, 4 of them caucusing with the majority side, of course the majority will have their way, but then the minority has their say, and in having our say, it should be done in a strong manner.
But what's the weight of the say they have? I'm sure people would want to understand that, well, if you have your say and we still have our way, we still have the power anyways.
Well, our governance or our politics does not end with an election. It's a cycle.
True.
There's 2028 just around the corner. And so if you go to sleep, then trust me, even the micro that you are rejecting, you might not even have it.
What test does this majority face, especially because it was just yesterday that their new leadership was outdoored? Do they have to go into a lot of consensus building, even though they do not necessarily need the minority?
Well, they would have to. They would have to. The nature of Parliament will force them to engage, to consult, to collaborate. You see, it's not always that you would have your members present. And it's not all matters that you would have your members agree to. You get it? So at certain points, you would need the minority or some members of the minority on your side. And that is the work of the whip. You will need to whip people in line on your side and also engage numbers on the other side to help you, follow through or have whatever policy it is that you're pushing to go through. You get it? And that is why you need a very strong whip. You get it? I can understand why Madam Doyo Gansa has been elevated to the position of the whip. You get it? Because there's longevity in Parliament. She has relationships on either sides of the House and all that. This is where her mastery or her craft as a whip is needed most. It will have to come to play, where she can engage the minority in instances like this, where they are raising issues regarding the absence of representation for the people of Ablekuma North in the House.
But because she is deputizing the Honorable Dafia Amepo, would you not think that she would want to follow the lead of Dafia Amepo?
She will, but in this
because
case,
she has a mother figure.
Exactly,
so,
exactly. And Dafia Amepo just took up the role.
True. But she has been there.
Exactly. Although deputizing, she has been there. She has engagements on the other side. Mind you, the other side maintained their leadership. Except for the addition of Jerry Ahmed Shaib. You get it?
Yeah.
So there's that level of relationship existing. So this is where she would have to, push the right buttons to trigger some level of collaboration on the other side to get them, listen, we have proper business to do. We can raise the issues regarding Ablekuma North on another day. But for now, our government is still forming. We need business, government business to be done in the House so that at least some of it, remind you, the president gave timelines.
Yeah.
And these are his marshals on the ground, his lieutenants. They should be able to ensure that they create the conducive environment or atmosphere for him, the president, to be able to meet his timelines. And that is why you notice the speed with which he's made his appointments. You get it?
Yeah.
The changes that we are seeing in the formation of the government and even in the leadership of Parliament.
Yeah, even so, on the appointment committee vetting, some pauses had to be made for some to come in. Because today we were supposed to have 3 regional minister designate vetting, but we had the Interior Ministry or the Interior Minister designate
which is a very key ministry.
Yeah.
The reason why you would have some change, because per the original timetable, as you mentioned, we should have gone through with regional minister designates because it started yesterday as per the original timetable published or advertised by the appointments committee. But concessions were made to have the Interior Minister designate come in, because this man is going to superintend over our security services, armed forces, military, fire service, immigration, Ghana Police Service, and to an extent even the customs officers of the GRA.
Even NADMO, you have NACO, you have the Small Arms Commission.
Thank
so
you.
His duty
National
is
security is also going to come. Exactly. And so you would need such a minister at posts, you get it, to be able, and we are at a time where the president has also promised that ending chieftaincy disputes, conflicts, chieftaincy conflicts has been prioritized by the president, and so you need your minister for the interior at post. You get it? That's what I'm saying, that some of these concessions need to be made and made very early, and that is the work of the whip. Governance will do a fine job. We've seen his experience in Parliament. We've seen the caliber of person he is, but I'm saying that he just took up the role.
You mean Dafia Amepo?
Yes, sorry. Forgive me, he is going to roads and highways. Yes, Roxanne Nelson Dafia Amepo. Yes, he has just assumed the role, and so that's why I was pushing more for Madame Doyo to step up. To step up. I mean, she needs to boldly and strongly be seen in this instance, supporting, of course, her chief whip, which will be in the person of Nelson Dafia Amepo, Roxanne Nelson Dafia Amepo.
You see that I keep turning. I'm trying to check if they are coming back or not. Right. The 30 minutes has not expired. But now let's look at the propriety of the concerns the minority is raising. Should there be an immediate attention to the Ablekuma North situation?
Indeed. We went into an election a month and more ago. 276 constituencies. Do they all have representation in Parliament?
No.
Ablekuma North is still outstanding. And the people of Ablekuma North need their representation in Parliament. The MPs that, or the candidates that contested spent. It's not like they're going to sit there to recoup. But of course, they had a mission and a vision to represent their people and do the work for their people. And I mean, that is the reason why we went into the election in the first place. And so it is important that this matter is expedited so that finality is brought to it. And then they have their representation in Parliament. Because already we are talking about the numbers, although it favors one side and not so much can be done about it. But hey, if it goes in favor of the MPP, then of course they are beefing up their numbers.
1 plus 1
Plus-
and another
plus 1 could make a difference, and you'll be surprised.
You think so?
On the day that the majority doesn't have numbers in parliament,
Well,
that plus 1
that's
will make
true.
a difference.
That's true. Yeah.
You get it?
Yeah.
And then of course the NDC also needs that plus 1
Yeah.
to authoritatively.
Exactly. Get the 2/3.
Exactly.
So now when they have the plus 1, they know that even without the independent candidate doing
True.
business with them, they can still go ahead and do things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course you'd understand why the minority will employ some of these tactics in the House, especially on the day where there's major government business to be done in the House. Because, I mean, like I said, with that slim minority, you need to employ all options, all avenues at your disposal to make your presence felt. Because the cycle does not end here. There's another election ahead. And you will be punished for being a lazy minority if you don't show up. But that notwithstanding, you shouldn't be reckless in opposition.
Is that what you think is happening? Or not yet?
I mean, we'll get there, but my fear is that it's going to get worse. Because if you judge, even from day one, the swearing in, the inauguration of the 9th Parliament, and some of the utterances that were made, I mean, comparatively to the 8th Parliament, this is like a honeymoon for us.
Yeah, that's how you go.
You get it. But I mean, you can foresee some of these things. Even judging from the sitting of the Appointments Committee, you can see the posturing of the minority quite clearly and how they intend to run, quote and unquote, run, because really it is not theirs to run anyway, but how they intend to behave or carry themselves in the 9th Parliament.
I actually heard somebody made a statement about how they withdraw their participation from the appointment committee. What do you think about that? It was not an official statement made on the floor, but I mean, as part of the protests they were mounting, that was one of the comments you had on the floor. To
withdraw their participation from the appointment. I mean, it's
a non-starter.
It's a non-starter, if you ask me, because I mean, per the standing orders of the House, you have representation on the committee, and it will do you more harm than good if you relinquish that duty.
Why do you think so?
Like I said, you sit there on the appointments committee because you have a job to do. The people of your constituency, the people of Ghana, have voted for you and given you a duty to perform. Now, you at the appointment committee, you are not sitting there for yourself. And that is why we have been saying from day one that they should have done better with their questioning and even the conduct at the appointment committee. Now, listen, if you have been nominated, right, on a ticket of your party for a ministerial position, and I am vetting you, I am looking out for your technical credibility, one. I am looking out for your suitability for the position, and then I'm looking out for your integrity, amongst other things, right? If I'm able to punch holes in these, this is me discrediting you. Do you know how much that affects your political gains or political fortunes in the future? The grassroots people are watching. My party foot soldiers are watching. If I am punching holes in your credibility, in your integrity, I am giving arsenal to my foot soldiers to use against you in subsequent elections. You get it? So it will do you more good to stay on the appointments committee and do your work as a member of the appointments committee rather than relinquishing that duty.
Now,
you get it?
Yeah. Now you expect more of these protests to happen. Could you tell us in which instances you're anticipating that some of these are likely going to happen?
If there's going to be a passage of a major bill, an introduction of a new tax, you see, what is going to happen is that this particular government or party came to power on a number of promises. You get it? So any bill that will come to the House that appears to be on the opposite side of any of the promises made by the party, you would see a strong opposition to it, as you are seeing now.
Going forward,
already we've heard the minority leader call on the president to apologize to Ghanaians on his promise to work with 60 ministers.
Nana,
although his own presidential candidate during the campaign had promised lesser, 50.
Exactly.
You get it? So that's what I'm saying.
And for
some
me,
of these things are going to come
me,
up.
the president has not said that he will not be able to govern with 60 ministers. And
listen,
the Honorable Afenyo Markin was saying that from how our governance system
the scrapping of
done,
some.
yes, it might be impossible to. So if you go ahead and ask the president to apologize, what is he apologizing for?
Listen, I am not sure running a country is a one-size-fits-all type of business.
Yeah.
We have different governance styles. So the fact that your party chooses to run its governance in this particular style or this particular way does not necessarily mean that Party B, when they come to power, should follow same. For instance, it's been scrapped, but now there's a Minister of State in charge of government communication. The president has given indication that the Information Services Department is going to be realigned, taken from the civil service to the presidency.
Right.
So this should give you an idea that he intends to run communication from the presidency instead of having an information ministry to do same. This takes out a ministry, right? And realigns the functions of that ministry with what he has set up, reduces the numbers. The man has reduced the number of ministries from 30 to 23, and he says he can run the business of governance with 60 ministers. Already he's given us 42 ministers, 18 more to go, which 18 mostly are going to be deputies to some of the ministries he has made nominations to.
True.
You get it? But I don't think the president spoke out of air.
Without knowing exactly what
plan
to do.
he has and what strategy he has to implement the plans he has. Now, if you are telling the president to apologize to Ghanaians and rethink his decision to run the country with 60 ministers, what is your proof that it cannot be done?
True.
What research have you done to show that the country cannot be run
60
with 60 ministers? Listen, I even have a problem with the number of constituencies and MPs we have and the number of ministers we've had in previous time. We are not that big a country. What's our population now? About 30 million. We have 276 constituencies.
And I think that's too much.
276 MPs. And listen, this is where even the danger comes from. You wouldn't want to, as a politician, push aside the request of the people for a region of their own, right? Now, if you create new regions, the tendency or the probability for you to create a new district is very high. If you fall into the trap of creating a new district, you have no choice now to create a new constituency. And then you are increasing the numbers in parliament. Meanwhile, you're promising to protect the public purse. You get it? When we started, was the country not run with just a few MPs?
Yeah.
Then the gerrymandering and all of that started.
But there's arguments of population growth. And so if the country is expanding, why not expand the representatives of the people?
It is not the representation or the representatives of the people that will cater for the expansion of population.
What will then?
You have your local governance system. If you're able to decentralize and adopt innovative ways of revenue generation at the local level, you should be able to take care of the population size there. You get it? It is your MP is not a development agent.
True. True.
You get it? He's a lawmaker. Primarily, that is his duty. So maybe we need to reorient ourselves to get that understanding, and perhaps the MPs themselves need to stop campaigning on the premise of development.
Yeah, promising so
Heaven
much.
on earth.
Yeah. And then when they come to power, it is then that it's as if they now realize that they are not given the power, or they do not have so much resources to make do the promises they made. But Nana, I was going to ask about going forward. I mean, you've listed certain instances that the minority can take advantage of and protest. You know, what should the majority do?
I mean, the majority has the advantage of numbers, right? And the majority, of course, with its leader being the leader of government business in the House, would definitely be the ones bringing policies to the House, right? And so what I think the majority needs to do is that you don't abuse your numbers,
True.
but you consult and engage a lot more. Listen, so much has changed regarding the numbers in the House. Unlike what we saw, the 137, 137-1, and the one deciding to caucus with the MPP side. You get it? And at that level, as we've heard time and again, by then Majority Leader Afenyo Markin, then Speaker, of course, still Speaker, and even the Minority Leader, then Dr. Cassiel Atuforsen, that there was a lot of backdoor engagements.
True.
And so before they come onto the floor, agreements have been reached, and it makes government business easier to progress. You get it? You would want same, because despite the fact that the minority does not have the numbers, they still have the power of opposition.
What's the powerful position?
The power position is their ability to rise and oppose some of the things that you will propose as a majority side. And trust me, if you are not careful, a witty minority can do them back and forth with you, delay projects, delay government business. They can deliberately do that. Like you're seeing now, all this disruption is time wasting.
Yeah.
Has the report of the business committee been adopted today?
No.
So exactly, so there's no progress being made.
Oh, so we understand the report has been adopted.
The report has been adopted.
But because of the chaos in the House, the Speaker had to suspend the sitting.
And do you think if the sitting had not been suspended and everything had been smooth, progress would not have been made on the report?
It would have been.
Business would have been going on.
Yeah.
And you see, that is that is from where I sit. That is what I anticipate will be the strategy of this minority. They say they will not be a reckless minority, but
That's how it's appearing.
Respectfully, and I'm being careful here, it appears they will be a disruptive minority.
Now I'll come back to you. I understand our parliamentary correspondent, Nia Ikwe Okain, is on standby to give us details of what's happening. Ikwe, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here. What can you tell us? Speaker suspended the House for 30 minutes. What's happening now?
Well, thanks for having me. So this morning, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, chaired proceedings for the business statement to take place. Right after the business statement was taken, the Speaker handed over to his second deputy, that's the second deputy Speaker, Andrew Esiama Amwako. Right after the second deputy Speaker took over, the minority leader, Alexander Afenyo Markin, was supposed to respond to the presentation of the business statement by the majority leader, Mahama Ayariga. Now, what he indicated was that over the period, or within some few days, they have been calling on the government to ensure that post-election violence are dealt with or nipped in the bud. This, they say, has fallen on deaf ear, and besides, they also claim that the government has failed to provide enough security for the collation of the parliamentary election results for Ablekuma North constituency. So they were urging the new leadership of the majority caucus to ensure that the government provides enough security for the completion of collation of the Ablekuma North parliamentary election results. Right upon his call, the members of the minority group started raising placards with some inscriptions, "Stop the violence at Ablekuma North, provide security," and all that. And then they also started singing or chanting the patriotic songs, and as well as the NPP party anthem and all that. So in the midst of it, the second deputy speaker, Andrew Esiama Amwako, started hitting the gavel to ensure that some order is maintained. But despite all that, he couldn't achieve the order in the House, and he was compelled to actually suspend sitting for some time. So as it stands now, we have the members of the House in here just waiting that order will be maintained for the second deputy speaker, Andrew Esiama Amwako, to return back to chair proceedings for today. We are expecting that the House would adopt the report of the appointments committee to ensure that ministerial nominees who have gone through vetting successfully would be approved today for subsequent swearing in by the president. So
right.
as it stands now, if the situation continues, because the minority has indicated that if the government does not ensure that security is provided for the final or the completion of collation of the Ablekuma North parliamentary election results, then no government business will take place. And yesterday and today, they have been raising concerns that in as much as the majority, the NDC has majority in the House, their numbers are not enough for the taking of decision. We are expecting that 138 members of the majority or 138 MPs are supposed to take decisions in the House. And when it comes to the report of the Appointments Committee, you need the 138 numbers to do that. Yesterday and today, the minority has been raising that concern that in as much as they are the majority, the NDC is the majority, they do not have that numbers to take decisions in the House. And they've been urging on the majority to ensure that they marshal their numbers into the chamber for this business to take place. So today, that's what they've indicated, that if they do not have, the NDC does not have the 138 MPs in the House, no government business will take place, more because they are also protesting the delay in the final or the collation of the Ablekuma North parliamentary election results.
Now, Ayikwe, tell us what the suspension is supposed to do. Are we seeing a meeting with leadership of the various caucuses to ensure that when they resume or there is speed in the resumption of parliamentary duties?
Well, to be frank with you, I personally did not hear the second Deputy Speaker, Andrew Esiama-Mwakun, suspending sitting, because in the midst of the chaos, we didn't hear him say anything. However, there are others who are also saying that the second Deputy Speaker actually suspended. Some are also of the assertion that he did not make any suspension. He just walked out of the chamber in the midst of all the chaos. So that is what we are not too certain yet, whether indeed it's for 30 minutes or to engage leaders, because the leaders are still in the chamber. You have the majority leader as well as the minority leader in the chamber together with the members of parliament. So as to what exactly is to do, we are not too certain yet. Maybe the second Deputy Speaker is just waiting for order to be maintained so that he could return to chair proceedings for today.
Well, we did hear him say that the House stands suspended for 30 minutes.
Okay.
That he said. But tell us what the minority position is. Is it the case that they are expecting a response from the majority caucus before they agree to proceed with business? What is their position on this matter, really?
So the position is that they made the call some few days ago, and the former majority leader, Dr. Kasiala Soforson, has not been able to ensure that security is provided for the Ablekuma North parliamentary election results. So they are urging on the new leadership to ensure that that is done. There is completion of collation at Ablekuma North. Just when the minority leader made that call, that's Alexander Aponyamati made that call, that is when the protest came in with the placards and then the patriotic songs. So we were expecting that the majority leader at least would be offered the opportunity to also respond to this particular call made by the minority leader. But in the midst of the chaos and all that, we haven't heard anything from him. And so we are expecting that the speaker would return and then the response would be provided if indeed they are going to ensure that the security is provided for the completion of the collation.
Now, briefly before we let you go, tell us what other matters are before the House today, apart from a possible consideration of the Appointment Committee's report on the ministers designate who have been vetted.
So the key thing, which is the business statement for the ensuing week, has been done. That was the presentation of that business statement. What is expected to happen from next week going, that has been presented. But then, what we are also expecting to see is the adoption, the debate on the report by the Appointments Committee, which is also the key thing, one of the key things that are expected to take place today. So once the House is currently suspended, that it has hit a snag for now, but we are expecting that if the Speaker comes in, they would take that report of the Appointments Committee, debate on it, and then subsequently it is approved for the swearing in of these MPs who have been vetted.
Hi. Now, ordinarily, the House would adjourn quite early on Friday. You wouldn't see the typical late sittings of the House. Today is a Friday. There's also the business of the debate and adoption of the report of the Appointments Committee yet to be done. So how much of a concern is this particular disruption and suspension to members of the House?
Well, so on Fridays, the convention is that they would close early so that those who may want to return to their constituencies to conduct other business would do so. But if that is the case today, as we are seeing with the protest by the minority and all that, obviously it's going to delay the process and it can eat into the night. So that one, they could do it even around 8 p.m., but which I doubt would even go to that extent. We are just expecting that indeed the Speaker, the second Deputy Speaker, would heed to the 30-minute suspension and return to the House. If he gets the cooperation of the minority, we should see the debate take place and then the adoption of the report done. But if the cooperation isn't there, then we are likely to see a late session for today.
We've also noticed a somewhat absence of the Speaker himself over this week. Now, the second, well, we appear to have lost the hopefully we'll get him back and then
certainly
we'll get more from him.
But from all indication, that's not